Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Old Astoria Neighborhood Association meeting. Just wanted to welcome you all. And, Richard Kuzami, the president of the organization, had a little bit of a medical issue. He's well. He's doing okay, but he's not able to be here in person, so he sends his apologies. They're trying to get him on the screen, but as you know, sometimes computers work and sometimes they don't. There he is. So, Richard, thank you for all the work that you do for the community. Thank you for putting this together tonight. We love you. Thank you. Diana, thank you for all that you do on behalf of OANA. Thank you to Chris Cyprian and Scott Young for the tech. Give them a big round of applause for the tech tonight. And to Kira and Shane from Rivercrest. This is a great location. Thank you, Rivercrest, for giving us the space tonight. So I want to next bring up our first speaker, John Vincenanza from the Port Authority, who's going to talk about the bus lane.
Good evening, everyone. My name is John Vincenanza. I'm with the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey on the Government and Community Relations team. I'm also joined by my colleague Raquel Moss from the Aviation Department. In the back on the laptop, Frank Watts, Chanel Thomas Henry, Hirsch Perek, and Michael Wojner. Before we get started, we ask that you just please hold questions until the end, and both Raquel and myself will do our very best to give you an answer. So I think with that, we can dive right into it. And I'm going to give the microphone to my colleague Raquel to get us started. Raquel?
Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing this evening? You doing okay? All right, great. So I bring you greetings from the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. Like my colleague said, my name is Raquel Moss. I am the Community Outreach Manager here for LaGuardia Airport. And today we're going to discuss with you the options for our mass transit solutions to LaGuardia Airport. Now, as many of you all know, LaGuardia Airport just underwent an $8 billion redevelopment. And in doing so, they felt it necessary to streamline a straight connectivity from the subway area directly to our airport. So we're going to discuss the options in doing so, and we're going to also discuss the solutions in which we came up with, okay? So real quick, on the agenda, okay, great. We're going to first, get rid of that. Thank you. We're going to first talk about the study overview. Then we're going to talk about the summary of transit options and evaluation factors. Then we're going to discuss the expert panel recommendation. And then we're going to fully discuss our next steps. Now, in the late 2021, Governor Hochul asked the Port Authority to thoroughly examine alternative mass transit and solution the reducing of the car traffic that is extremely increasing for the connectivity to LaGuardia Airport. The Port Authority agreed, and in that agreement, they committed to one, undertaking a thorough review of potential alternative mass transit options to the airport. Two, work in a close consultation with independent experts and stakeholders. And three, complete its work expeditiously as possible. Now, with that, we know there are objectives. So with those objectives, we had to first review and set alternatives, including those identified by independent panels of experts and other stakeholders. And two, with that input from the independent experts and the community and the stakeholders, we're going to evaluate those options. And those are the things that we're going to discuss today. Now let's talk about our expert panels which we utilize to be able to come up with these recommendations. First, we utilize Mike Brown, who is the former Commissioner of Transport for London and the former Managing Director for Heathrow Airport. Jeanette Sadiq Khan, many of you may be familiar with her. She's the former commissioner of the New York City Department of Transportation. And Philip A. Washington, who is the CEO of Denver International Airport and the former CEO of Los Angeles Metro. Now, with these experts, we found it necessary that they are the subject matter experts in regards to transportation, whether it be air travel or whether it be ground transportation. Hold on one second. Okay. Now, with doing this particular streamline, we had to coordinate with partner agencies. And one of the main ones was the MTA. MTA was a key partner in this study and has been consulted in the development of all subway and bus options as well as intermodal transfers. Now, in addition, the study team consulted with other agencies such as Amtrak, Con Edison, New York City, and New York State Department of Transportation, just to name a few, to fully come up with the decisions in which they did. Now, in order for us to be able to do that, we had to hold public engagements, understanding that the community is a standpoint into what we're doing. So we had to make sure that we did a questionnaire that we sent out to 70 plus key stakeholders, included elected officials, community organizations, and other stakeholder groups. Not only did we do that, we conducted not one, but two public in-person workshops in March. One in East Elmhurst, that was at the Marriott, and the second one was at Astoria Manor, that's not too far from here. But we didn't just stop there. We also did 10 independently run focus group sessions. Now, understanding that Queens is one of the most diverse boroughs in the New York City, we wanted to make sure that we did these independent studies within Spanish, English, Mandarin, Bengali, just to make sure everyone that spoke every language got a full understanding of what we were doing in their comfortable language. Now, in doing so, they created 14 transit options that were evaluated. My colleague John will go through each of those options and break them down for you, okay, so we could be able to move on. Hold on.
Thanks, Raquel. Me again. So just to go over the options really quick, there were two subway options. It was a W branch along the GCP, an NW extension along 31st Street and 19th Avenue. There were 5 fixed guideway options, and when we say fixed guideway, think the original AirTrain idea. 5 bus options, including improvements to the already existing Q70 and M60 route, ferry and shuttle service, and then emerging technologies. And when we say emerging technologies, think things along the line of Elon Musk's Boring Company. Next slide, please. Boring Company. The Boring Company. It's a tunneling. Yeah, boring. Yeah. Okay, so this map here, it's a summary of the subway options and the routes for it. So I guess we'll start with the 30th Avenue station. And there you'll notice 2 different lines. You'll see a purple line and a green line going to the airport. So the purple line is for the on-airport stations. That means that the subway would terminate on airport. And then the green line is for an off-airport end. Additionally, you'll see an extension of the W from the Ditmars Boulevard station down 31st Street, across 19th Avenue, arriving at the airport. Next slide, please. So this is a slide with a summary of the fixed guideway options. Starting to the east of the airport, you see the original AirTrain route right here from Metz Willets Point Station. Moving to the west, you'll see the connection to the Jamaica Station. Going further west, a connection from 74th Street, Roosevelt Avenue. Further west, a connection from 61st Street, Woodside Station. And then finally, a fixed guideway from the Astoria Boulevard Station down the GCP to the airport. Next slide, please. So this slide is a summary of the bus options that were reviewed. You'll notice the Q70 in blue and the M60 in teal. The M60 right there, Q70 right there. And then an Astoria Boulevard Station nonstop shuttle bus in orange. And then an Astoria Ditmars Station nonstop shuttle bus in purple. And then a Northern Boulevard Station with a nonstop shuttle bus. Next slide. And finally, this is a slide of the summary of ferry options. Now, to state the obvious, this provides access to the airport from waterfront areas in New York City, areas like Pier 11, East 34th Street, East 90th Street. And there are 2 potential locations for ferry landings at the airport. On the west side of the airport at Bowery Bay near Terminal A, and then on the east side of the airport in Flushing Bay near Terminal C. Now, of note is that this option would require another means of transportation, a shuttle bus service, to pick up arriving passengers and then take them to their terminal. Next slide. So we have our 13 evaluation factors for this study. So they were things construction aspects, things like constructability and capital cost. Transportation aspects, does this actually improve and increase transit connectivity to the airport and ridership? Community and environmental aspects.
Yeah,
we'll go back to that.
So, but I didn't hear anything about the air train that currently exists from JFK to Jamaica. Why can't a air train be connected to the Jamaica station, right, and run an air tram from LaGuardia to Jamaica, and you'd be connecting people from JFK, Newark, because it could go into Penn Station, and then from there go to Long Island on the Long Island Railroad. I mean, it just seems so much more convenient, and you could run along the Grand Central Parkway and go south, so you avoid that FAA regulations.
Sure. And Frank, can we go back to that slide, because I think we did highlight that just briefly, but we can talk a little bit. Yep, go to the right one, Frank. There you go. So, nope. You're doing a dance on me here, Frank. So you'll see it. I don't know where that pointer went, but you'll see it in the bottom right, the LR31. That's the connection from the Jamaica station that you're talking about right there. And I'll just speak briefly about it and then hand it over to my colleague Hirsch. But really, there's not really the demand from going from one airport to the other. You know, we don't really see people that want to travel from JFK to LaGuardia. They're really two different types of destination airports. The other, it's just the cost. And third is impacts to the community to create a project like this.
But there was a whole cost analysis for the other options. There was nothing on that. So in other words, I mean, you build it once, build it right, it's the perfect solution, because you're connecting Penn Station to Jamaica, and then you're going to the two airports from there.
So we did do a very extensive analysis of all of these options. What we presented here today is just the analysis of the two options that are advancing. Every option, the 14 options that John and Raquel covered, we did a 400+ page report that was released in March of last year that looked at every option, evaluating them against every factor that was on the screen earlier. And so for the connection to Jamaica Station, for example, that was reviewed very thoroughly as well. As John said, challenges with cost, challenges with constructability, challenges with community impact. Those were some of the top things that prevented that option from moving forward. And so the expert panel that we convened, they reviewed all of this analysis, and they recommended that we advance with these two bus options.
Spaces are going to be permanently lost in the area. You mentioned it on the other, from the 70. Well, that was from the Q70, not from the Ditmars to LaGuardia. So I mean, I feel like we don't really have a voice. I mean, you could go to Pete Buttigieg and ask him for money, and I'm sure he'll give it to you.
So, couple of things. One, we are in the planning and design phase of this right now. And so while we do expect that there will be some loss of parking because the angled parking will need to be converted to parallel parking, we are still fine-tuning the design of this option. So the estimates that we saw of parking loss are just that, estimates. Because now that we have completed the analysis of all 14 options, now we can get into the real nitty-gritty of designing and planning these two options. So there will be additional information that will come out that we will come and present to you about these impacts. We'll also look for some feedback, right? Do we go in this direction or that direction? So that is still to come. As John and Raquel said, there is going to be extensive community engagement moving forward.
But I see that the Q70 option, right, is less expensive, less time, it seems like. So if we're eliminating all the other options that, you know, so the Q70 is less time, less expensive, and less impact. But yeah, it seems like this plan is going forward because you already see the construction going on in
No,
LaGuardia.
no. So there is no construction is happening for these projects. I just want to make that very, very clear. Any construction that is happening right now is unrelated to this project. Both bus options, we are moving forward into the design and planning phase. But we are not undertaking any construction at this time on either of these options. Whatever construction you see is unrelated. It could be MTA construction. It could be DOT construction. It could be some National Grid Con Edison. It is unrelated to this ground access project.
So how many parking spaces will be lost from Ditmars to LaGuardia?
I have. Okay. Okay, so I was just waiting. So can you put that map back on, please? The one that was just up, or the one that has the little road that was in the planning start that says in Terminal A. They won't answer that question. Where it shows Terminal A, B, C, LaGuardia, please.
Frank, he's controlling it back there. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I'll be 5 minutes.
this one.
So, right. So if you see Terminal A,
Right. Yeah.
I live there as well as about 6 people back here.
Mhm.
That's called Garden Bay Condominiums. I've been there for 10 years. LaGuardia has destroyed the area. We had completely destroyed it. The back entrance has been open. I got it, Kathy. Kathy, I got you. The back entrance was open. I've been speaking with Chanel Thomas. I've been posting. I've been doing, but nobody cares because are you here, Chanel? Chanel girl. They've opened it. All of your employees that work in food service love to walk through. They park their security cars and then they switch cars and they save cars for each other. And none of us can park our freaking cars. Number one, I have one car and it's a problem. Then we have their trash. They're dropping their trash. I sent Chanel pictures today. There's women walking through, taking home plastic bottles, bags of bottles, their food. They drop it in front on purpose. I was attacked one night by they were having a party in front of my house, your employees, in a LaGuardia car. It's all in the emails. Horrendous. Your community outreach is community, can I say bullshit? Number one. Number two, you opened up the back there. You just paid $2.5 million to do that little marshland where I have my view of the bay, to do a front and back entrance for your bus. So what's on the map is already done.
So just to clarify what you saw back there, New York City DEP was doing a project that required them to open up the ground, do some work underground to the pipes. So may I? So
Hey,
Ma-
if you guys want to make a comment, there's no point in yelling because
well,
but you got to wait your turn.
if I may
This woman
respond
is
to the
next.
question, I'd love to respond to the question. So again, just to be crystal clear, there is no work happening related to this ground access project. The work that you saw happening in the back there, New York City DEP had to do some pipe work underground. And so we had to modify access in that back area. But again, that there has been an entrance back there for many years. We had to modify that access point in order for DEP to do their work. I just want to make that very, very clear that there is no work happening related to this project. We are only in the planning and design phase.
Hello. Hello. Hi, my name is Kathleen. I grew up in Astoria since I'm 3 years old, and that you can tell it's a pretty long time. I lived down in the Marine Terrace when I was a child, and that was about a 20-block walk to the nearest bus stop on 21st Street. Now they moved on Ditmars. Now they moved the bus stop to 21st Avenue, and it's still pretty far for people on 19th and 20th Avenue to walk to a bus and then 30 blocks to the train. So we took the 21st Street bus and got a lot of exercise getting there. But I made a suggestion a few years ago. That bus on 21st Street goes all the way to Queensboro Plaza. And then it comes back to Ditmars and goes all the way up, just like 2 blocks short of LaGuardia Airport. So I said, why not just have that bus go one more stop into Manhattan like the Steinway bus does, instead of all these billions that you're spending, and then add a few more stops to LaGuardia Airport. Now, you could make a designated bus like they do for the Rikers Island if you want to have an extra bus, put more buses. But that was just a very simple solution. Nobody ever got back to me. The other thing, I live on the other side of Astoria Park now, still 10 blocks from the nearest train, but it used to be so easy to drive across Shore Boulevard, which now lost 3 miles worth of parking in the neighborhood that we keep losing, and for people who live 20 blocks from the subway. And it used to be a very quick ride to ride across Shore Boulevard to 19th Avenue and straight up on 20th Avenue to Garden Bay, to LaGuardia Airport. And now they put these designated barrier bike lanes on 20th Avenue that nobody's using, and it slowed down the traffic. I have pictures of all the bikes riding in the middle of the street because it's too inconvenient to go to the other aisle where they put in these designated lines. Now, going to Broadway the last few months, there's a shopping center there. And you drive there, they put in these designated bus lanes the last few months. So somebody's doing that construction. We had a petition to reopen Shore Boulevard, which nobody paid attention to. So then the designated bus lines, I'm almost finished. The designated bus lanes, now they're empty, and 21st Street is so congested with the closure of 21st Street, with the designated bus lanes, and they took the ability to make a left turn up to 31st Street.
Okay, well, all right. So we do hear your concerns, but we need to first and foremost understand the discussion that we're having tonight. So, excuse me, sir, with the microphone. Let us be clear. Let us be clear. We are, ma'am. So what I'm saying to you, let's be clear. You have to understand that that is MTA. That is not Port Authority. So if that's a discussion that you would like to have, I will allow you to speak, but you must allow me to answer you, please. I'm asking. Okay, so that's an MTA. That's an MTA issue in regards to extending that bus. That's not a Port Authority issue. Now, first and foremost, we must understand that we're here to discuss the ground transportation in regards to what we discussed as far as the new bus line and the Q70, the extensions of the improvements to the Q70. So if you have questions regarding that, we will be happy to answer that. So who has the microphone?
Yeah. And I know these guys have a 7:20 hard out, right? So we only have a few more minutes. Any pressing questions here?
Hello. Oh, hi. Oh, I'm over here. Sorry. Okay. Hi. Okay. My questions are public transit focused. My first was, because the Astoria Boulevard already has the elevator ADA access, was any consideration given to starting at that stop as opposed to the Ditmars stop? Because my second question is, how long will the construction be, and will the Ditmars stop be closed for construction of the ADA accessibility?
So just to answer your first question, yes, the Astoria Boulevard station was considered. However, in the expert panel's recommendation, it was easier for customers traveling to reach the end of the line as to not cause confusion when they were traveling. You reach the end of the station, they can get off there. And then for ADA compliant at the Ditmars Boulevard station, again, we're in the preliminary phases of this, so we don't really have a timeline for that. At least I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask a question. At 31st Street and 19th Avenue, you mentioned Con Edison involvement. Are you going to be digging on Con Edison land? Any excavations?
No, nothing like that, Hirsch.
No, what we are doing is, as you know, that is a private property right now. So we would be working with Con Ed to allow these buses to go through the Con Ed property and make that connection from 31st to 19th.
All right, so
So
they'll go
that's
through,
what the coordination with Con Ed is for.
so they'll go through the Con Ed entrance on 31st Street and loop around?
And then turn onto 19th.
All right, so there's no excavations there.
We don't anticipate any excavation. However, again, I just want to be very clear. We are in the design and planning phase. So as we move forward and in partnership with Con Ed, if there are certain things that need to occur, again, we would come back out, discuss it, share it, update the community about those impacts, and make sure that there is awareness of it.
All right, just
But as of right now, we don't anticipate.
be mindful that's like a Love Canal situation over there. It's all full of PCBs. If you dig into the ground, it only has a 4 feet till you hit the water table. Then it goes through all the neighbors and it'll be Love Canal. Understand that. Okay. So as long as that's not happening, you're not looping around. And the other thing, you had an estimate of how many parking spaces are. Give me a ballpark, how many spots are going to be lost?
Well,
From what-
on,
you know,
that,
from
on
like-
that particular side, we said approximately 20.
20 spots. Okay.
Yes.
31st Street, on between Ditmars and 20th Avenue. The diagonal parking. Yeah, how many spots are going to be lost?
So, sir, once again,
I'm
Ju-
asking for your
so,
estimate.
So
an
again,
estimate.
I just want to be very clear. That question was asked. We tried to answer it in saying that we anticipate that as of right now, the full length, the angled parking will need to be converted to parallel parking. Now we are looking at ways to reduce that impact. So it may not need to be along the full length. It may not need to be for all hours of the day. We are looking at various options in order to advance this shuttle service and minimize impacts on the community. So all of these things are being reviewed and discussed. This is at this point of the project, we are in the design and planning phase. And I'm sorry if I sound like a broken record, but
Well-
it's just that's where we are. And we will be coming back to share more information about how this project is advancing and some of the more specific impacts.
So nothing's written in stone. Will there be a proposal later that we'll see? Is it voted on or it just gets rubber stamped like eminent domain? I'm just want to know.
What's certain right now is we are advancing these two options into the design and planning phase. After that, we will make a determination about advancing them into the construction phase, but we are not at that point yet.
All right. Just remember, 19th Avenue cannot be excavated. And that's all I'm going to do now because other people have questions.
Yeah, so we only have a few minutes here. Hang on.
Hello. Hi, I wanted to ask about the ferry option. You mentioned that earlier.
Go ahead, ask your question.
There's a
We'll try and
ferry
pull-
that's at Astoria Boulevard down there, Broadway, down at 30th Avenue, and the ferry used to go right to LaGuardia Airport. There
Yeah.
used to be a ferry that used to go from LaGuardia right down to Manhattan. What happened to that?
Everyone else has a ferry, but LaGuardia doesn't want a ferry boat, and there's a dock there.
So,
It's
so
the easiest option.
We already have a dock.
So if-
Why is it not a ferry?
let me answer your question. So once again, we looked at the ferry options, right? We looked at two ferry options. One that would land on the west side in Bowery Bay and one that would land on the east side in Flushing Bay. However, the reason that was not advanced is because a couple of things. One is ferries are subject to weather. If there is bad weather, ferries cannot operate typically. One. Two, to access a ferry, if you don't already live near the ferry landing, then you have to take some sort of transportation to get to the ferry landing, then take the ferry, then get off the ferry, then take another bus from Bowery Bay or Flushing Bay to your terminal. The ferry cannot land on airport in front of the terminal because of the layout of the airport and other security issues. So that was the reason why the ferries were not advanced. because and that ferry had very low ridership, and that's why it was discontinued.
Hi, good evening. I'm not a expert panel, but I do ride the 100. That last stop is Rikers Island. Excuse me? Oh, I ride the 100. The last stop is Rikers Island. I commute there to work every day. You can just add another stop, like what the previous speaker said, and go straight into the airport. Your other option is across from Neptune Diner is already a no standing. You already have an elevator that's ADA compliant. You can make the signals that comply with the bus and make a left straight into the Grand Central and go straight, approach the airport that way. Or you could actually make a right on Astoria Boulevard and then make your second right on 21st Street to eventually loop around 20th Avenue and make your left on 37th. Because there's already a redesign for a bus to go down by the new studio and eventually to run down 31st Street a year from now.
So John already spoke about, we looked at an option from where the M60 currently stops at Astoria Boulevard and goes down Grand Central Parkway. We looked at that option, but again, it was decided not to advance with that because thinking about people who might be coming to New York for the first time, when they're coming from the airport and they need to ride the subway, if they're getting to the subway station, if there's only one train going in one direction at the last stop, it becomes less confusing as opposed to going to Astoria Boulevard and trying to figure out which direction to go. Now, I see the heads that are shaking. I get it. Folks here disagree. I get that. I get that. However, that was the recommendation that the MTA also provided us, that they believe that that is the best way to connect to the subway. I get that folks disagree. We get it. We hear that you have concerns with this option. That's why we're out here presenting to you, and we will be coming back and sharing more information.
Okay. Hey, Hirsch. So I have a question, and I know that the Port Authority needs to go at 7:20. So it's now 7:20. So I'll ask this question: Is there a reason? Is there a safety reason involved for the elimination of those parking spots? So is there a way that everybody can win here, right? Because I think everybody wants to be able to get to the airport safely. And I think the neighborhood still wants to, there's a view in the room that there's some folks who want to keep some parking spots. So is there a way that everybody wins, or this is a safety issue involved?
So right now, the width of the road is the width of the road. We're not expanding the width of the road, right? And so to ensure that there is a travel lane and ensure that there is a bus lane, really the only way to accomplish that is to reduce the angled parking and turn into parallel. Now, with that being said, again, part of the things we are looking at is there a way to maintain some level of parking during the day? Is there a place we can find additional parking options to make up for the loss of parking that may occur on 31st Street and 19? So those are all things that we are looking at. And again, there's more to come as we move forward.
Is that street terribly trafficked that you need a travel lane on that street?
31st Street?
Between Ditmars and 21st. Not going this way, going this way.
Well, you need a travel lane because people are traveling in their personal vehicles as well. So to have only a bus lane, I think would create a larger.
I'm saying that maybe the bus lane's not necessary.
Well, again, that is part of what we're looking at. Is again looking at traffic to see is a bus lane needed for the full length of the route. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. And we're looking at that carefully, looking at the traffic, looking at the modeling, and that is something that may come up as this planning effort moves forward. So what I will just say is more to come.
All right,
I think
guys,
we're out of time.
But thank you guys for your time. We appreciate it. If you're able to leave someone behind, thank you. If you're not, I understand. Okay.
Here you go.
Okay.